And I would also want to introduce alle Richterabteilungen, Torfs. And also now I would like to refer to one sentence of Charles Darwin, stating that it is the relation from organism to organism that is the most important. It is a relation from organism to organism that is the most important. And now you can think I am a biologist, but I'm not, I'm an astrophysicist. So I want to broaden that. It's the relation from organism to us as human beings, to the earth, the sun, the galaxy and the universe. And it is within all these complexities of relations that we live. And it is us as human beings within all these relations, inextricably bound to these relations, who decides if we take up or not a dialogue with all these relations. And our Richter will now take up this dialogue and will give us his view on the dialogue between science and religion.
Your Excellencies, dear organizer of this beautiful manifestation, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm of course not truly an expert in this field, I'm just a canon lawyer, but let's have a try. Religion and science. Those who speak or write about religion and science suspect a connection between the two. And if there is none, this needs to be stated explicitly. The American physicist and theologian Ian E. Barber describes 4 models for the interaction between religion and science: conflict, independence, dialogue, integration. There's always something that connects them, even if there is nothing. This simple idea leads to a lasting wonder. Religion and science is an enduring theme, as opposed to, for instance, science and humor, or religion and comedy. These topics exist as well, but nobody takes them too seriously. Clearly, there's not a lot at stake there. With religion and science, it's a whole other story. The two are riveted together forever. Georges Lemaitre had an opinion about it as well. As we already learned, it is beautifully captured in the sentence on the wall also of his former office in Premonstraat College in the Naamsestraat in Leuven. There are 2 paths to truth, and I decided to follow both of them. A statement that not only connects religion and science, but also makes truth a complex concept, especially from a contemporary point of view. The truth needs to be broad enough, sufficiently intelligent too, if it wants to encompass both religion and science. A role not unlike the brilliant definition that legal expert Domitius Ulpianus of the 3rd century gave of justice. Justitia est constans et perpetua voluntas, jus sum cuique tribuere. Justice is the constant and perpetual will to allot to every man his due. Perhaps this also applies to Georges Lemaitre's notion of truth. Does it allow for religion and science to have their own path within a broad concept of truth? Or are they in fact ultimately incompatible in the eyes of those who cannot stop thinking? Or is the contrast between the two the result of thinking along increasingly narrow paths that eventually come to a dead end? This is what the following reflection will be about. In a recent article, Palmier Omen from the Netherlands gives a nice overview of the historical connections between religion and science. It goes something like this. Theologians from the first millennium often had a hard time connecting our knowing, which is based on Greek thinking, with our religion, which has Judeo-Christian roots. In the 12th and 13th century, religion and science start going together harmoniously. Thomas Aquinas, 13th century, sees God as the first cause of being in the world. This idea helps us to see two different ways through which God is known. On the one hand, there are the scriptures and the Bible. This is the most secure source of knowledge for theologians in those days. On the other hand, there are the creatures. But this source is not flawless because there is a qualitative difference between the creator and the creatures. Therefore, the image that the creatures present of the creator can never be entirely accurate. God is different and larger. Precisely the fact that God can never be described on the basis of creation, that both do not coincide, creates room for science. After all, it can never pose a threat to God, who is completely different. Nature only shows a glimpse of him. Thomas Aquinas' idea was translated into the theory of the two books. There are two ways to know God. Both the scriptures and nature may be read as a book from God. It's clear that we are now very close to the famous line by Georges Lemaitre, his two paths to truth. This shouldn't come as a surprise. Lemaitre was educated in the heydays of neo-Thomism, of which Cardinal Mercier was the founding father in Belgium. In 1919, Lemaitre became a baccalaureus in Thomist philosophy. But then, after Thomas Aquinas, the harmony model was challenged. Palmier Owen gives a wonderful description of this process, because the criticism came from two sides. The first critique was theological. The Franciscan William of Ockham believed that Aquinas' theory jeopardized the infinite distance between God and his creation. That we may know something about God through nature was in his eyes overly ambitious. Result, God is no longer referred to in the process of thinking about the world, and the risk is clear. If God is too large to be included in thinking about nature, it doesn't make a lot of difference for that thinking whether God exists or not, or how piety paves the way for atheism. The second critique stems from the reasoning of Isaac Newton, 1643-1723, and the law of universal gravitation in particular. An object that moves in a specific direction will in principle maintain that speed. This potentially reduces God's role, as was the case also with Voltaire. God becomes a once-only creator, after which the world carries on by itself. Ockham and Voltaire's criticism steadily led to the separation of religion and science. Both can exist autonomously. Nothing prevents them from ignoring each other. Not until the end of the 19th century will the two come closer together again. By neo-Thomism, here we are, among others, which restores and adapts Thomas Aquinas' harmony. But also by atheism and antitheism, which no longer allows religion to have its own domain. Thomas Aquinas left room for science in his religious worldview. Today, antitheists such as Richard Dawkins do the exact opposite. They consider science as intrinsically incompatible with religion. Read our work and you will lose your religion, or so their reasoning goes. So the scientist discourse can eliminate religion using scientific arguments. But even more strongly, religion is completely subordinate to science. Palmier Owen points out that the supposed incompatibility of religion and science is exceptional from an historical point of view. Until the 19th century, this notion was barely expressed. This observation in itself is very interesting. The antitheist will interpret it as a sign of scientific progress, an unstoppable evolution, with maybe a nod even towards Darwin. Typical of exact science, after all, is the notion, or at least the idea, of moving forward, of a never-continuing development. If religion is subordinate to science, it will gradually lose ground, with atheism as the end result. But this linear evolution does not always hold true. Philosophy can hardly claim that the ideas of Plato or Aristotle have lost their relevance since Hegel or Heidegger. And some may argue that when it comes to art or religion, earlier ideas may in fact be more powerful than later ones. This second, non-linear approach considers atheism as an exception, perhaps even an accident de parcours. But let's not make it too easy for ourselves. How can we think about the relationship between religion and science today? Some may say there is no reason why religion and science should not be compatible. It's all about the difference between seeing and seeing us, as Herman de Dijn puts it. The first approach is that of science. The second one is that of religion and ethics. Other ways exist to express the difference. Science resorts to literal language, religion to symbolical. Science examines the how, religion the why. Put this way, of course, the contrast sounds very Cartesian. I will now move away from the difference that may lead to a strict separation between religion and science. Exploring the grey areas between the two is much more exciting. One question that continues to fascinate me is this: why are some scientists so keen to prove that religion is nonsense? Why is that? I see two possible explanations. The first explanation, often quoted by some faithful, is that some scientists don't pay enough attention to the singularity of the religious discourse. In their view, in the view of those religious people, symbolism equals, in the viewpoint of scientists, symbolism equals untruthfulness. And religious language is an obscurantist non-language. Mary's virginity is then dismissed as biologically impossible. God creating man on the 7 days at odds with evolutionary theory. The resurrection of Christ goes against the simple observation that the dead cannot come back to life again. The inability to see truth or even anything of intellectual value outside the realm of science definitely plays a part in all this. But this is undoubtedly not the only driving force behind contemporary antitheism. This leads me to a second explanation. The ambition of antitheism is not just scientific. It aims to be a Weltanschauung as well. Paradoxically, this is because it leaves no room for religion and worldviews outside the scientific box. In other words, if science swallows up Weltanschauung, science inevitably becomes a worldview. This may end in deadlock, because when it becomes a worldview, science is no longer scientific. One example by way of illustration. According to Richard Dawkins, and an increasingly widely held belief, it is crystal clear that God doesn't exist. Those who still believe today cannot be decent scientists. But is that a reasonable conclusion? How can you go from the empirical absence of God to his non-existence as a scientific conclusion. Only a precise definition of God can lead to the conclusion that he does not exist. Are the religious thinkers not more subtle than that? Thomas Aquinas, and it has been mentioned, believed also in the thinking of Lemaitre. Thomas Aquinas believed that when it comes to God, we can only know what he is not what he is. Negative theology fits into this line of thought, as do the experiences of various mystics. Ruysbroek was mentioned, and the work of many poets. One example that comes to mind is the poet Paul Celan and his remarkable poem Psalm, of which the second stanza goes: Geloopt zijs du, niemand. Dir zu lieb wollen wir blühen, dir entgegen. In a nutshell, the scientist who applies his methods to religion gets the rough end of the stick. He has to define God to prove his non-existence, and he lacks the tools to distinguish between non-existence and absence. And how about the other way around? What happens when religious thinking ties in more closely with science again, looks for common ground, or raises critical questions about science? It's obviously nonsense to force science into a religious framework. That would simply be turning the antitheist method upside down. But some questions are nevertheless appropriate. Questions with a scientific connotation that come to the religious mind. The first question, I will have 3 questions altogether, don't be afraid. The first question concerns the supremacy of a mechanistic model to explain the entire universe. I remember a conversation, some of you were there as well, with Nobel Prize winner François Anglais in a Leuven restaurant late at night, after he had given a lecture. Will science ever have the answer to life's ultimate questions? I asked him. Anglais didn't think so. Perhaps because it is all too big. Someone suggested light years are extremely far removed from what we can grasp, for instance. But this is not what Anglais meant. I think there's a flaw somewhere, he said, that there is a hitch, that the system is disrupted somewhere. It didn't mean anything religious. It was just a hunch about science. Perhaps we will reach a point where mechanistic thinking stops making sense. This idea appealed to me. Limits to logic, limits to deterministic thinking, to mechanism. Perhaps there aren't any, but perhaps there are. We don't know. A second question is which fields of science may be linked to religion, and for instance to creation. Palmier Owen again has doubts about the dominance of mechanistic thinking in natural sciences. Is a biological or relational model not much more powerful? Unlike a machine, Owen argues, a plant is not assembled, but instead forms itself using the available material. Change and influence are, in this case, not imposed from the outside, but processes for which the functioning of a specific organism is essential. Considering the issue from a different angle, Owen thus shares Anglais' sepsis about the supremacy of the mechanistic. But there is a third question left to be asked. Is it enough if we only include natural sciences and biology in the discussions about religion and science? Can the slightly less exact sciences not play a role as well? This is definitely the case for philosophy. It is more speculative than physics, but bears resemblance to the science-less worldview practiced by the anti-theists. And perhaps we should go to and beyond the boundaries of the scientific and think about art, which derives an important part of its value from its innovative character. The reproducibility that makes science scientific degrades art to epigonism. It's a strange idea. Typical of art is its search for the place where no one has ever been before, for a terra incognita that, once reached, loses its unknown quality and therefore its future appeal. Of course, you can have rational conversations about art. You can develop complex theories about it, but at the same time, art can hardly bear repetition. It needs the unknown. The same applies to science. It sets out to find the as yet unknown as well, but whereas the conquest of the unknown is a victory, bleak science, which needs unbelief, anxious religion, which considers science an enemy. In any case, Georges Lemaitre, following in the wake of Thomas Aquinas, was unaffected by this limited view. In our times of growing narrow-mindedness, this is truly a breath of fresh air. Thanks a lot.